the sky over DracoWar was dark with smoke and ash. Volcanoes rumbled in the distance, and the air smelled of sulfur. From above, the shadow of a massive dragon moved slowly, its wings ragged and torn. This was Seraphine, the queen of the dragons, once strong and majestic, now grounded and weak. Her scales, once bright and shining, were dulled by dust and blood. She let out a low, painful roar that shook the rocks around her. Every movement hurt, and her pride did not allow her to show weakness, yet pain and fear were clear in her golden eyes. Humans rarely came to DracoWar. The land was dangerous, and dragons did not trust them. But one human, Galen Armitage, had come anyway. Galen was not a warrior. He was a veterinarian, a healer, and sometimes people called him foolish for trying to help creatures as powerful as dragons. Yet, he had courage, and he had hope. Seeing Seraphine in pain, he knew he could not turn away. The other humans in the nearby village shook their heads. "Leave her," they said. "It is impossible to heal a dragon this badly." But Galen did not listen. He knelt near her and examined the broken wings. The damage was worse than anyone had imagined. One wing was twisted, bones cracked and splintered, membranes torn like paper. The other was burned, charred in places, and covered in scars from battles long past. Galen's heart ached. He had studied dragon anatomy for years, but seeing a creature of such beauty and strength in this condition made him feel small. Yet he refused to give up. He pulled out his bag of tools and herbs, carefully cleaning her wounds with steady hands. He spoke softly, even though dragons did not speak like humans. "It's okay, Seraphine," he whispered. "I won't let you die. I promise." The queen watched him silently, her pride warring with her weakness. She had ruled for centuries, leading her kind with wisdom and strength. Never before had a human dared to approach her when she was so vulnerable. Some dragons would have attacked immediately, seeing him as a threat. But Galen's calm presence and gentle hands gave her a strange sense of trust. She lowered her head slightly, letting him examine her closer. It was not just the wounds that were dangerous. The battle that had injured her was a mystery. Some said it was another dragon clan trying to claim her territory. Others whispered of humans who had attacked first, but no one knew for certain. Galen had no time to think of blame. His job was to heal, and he had to act fast. He prepared special salves, mixing herbs and minerals known to aid in healing, though most humans doubted they could do much for a dragon. "I have to try," he muttered. "Even if no one believes me." Nearby, a group of young dragonlings watched. They were small and curious, not yet able to fly long distances. They had loved Seraphine since they were hatched and could not bear to see her in pain. They hovered quietly, unsure if they should approach or flee. One braver little dragon crept closer, inspecting Galen with wide, cautious eyes. Galen noticed but smiled. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I'm here to help your queen. I won't hurt her." The dragonlings chirped softly, seeming to understand. Time passed slowly. Galen worked through the night, cleaning wounds, bandaging torn membranes, and whispering words of encouragement. He improvised with tools humans used for birds, adapting them to dragons. Each movement was careful, one wrong touch could make the injuries worse. Seraphine flinched at times, testing his patience, but he never pulled back. His hands were steady even when his heart raced with worry. By dawn, the first light of the sun reflected off Seraphine's golden scales. She had not moved much, but she no longer hissed at him. Her eyes followed him, studying his every motion. For the first time since her injuries, she allowed a small sign of trust, a tilt of her massive head toward him. Galen felt a surge of hope. Perhaps, against all odds, she could be healed. Perhaps humans were not powerless in the face of dragons after all. The villagers gathered at the edge of the clearing, whispering among themselves. "He's crazy," one said. "No human could save her." Another added, "She's the queen. She will die before sunrise." Galen ignored them, focusing on the queen. "I don't care what anyone thinks," he said aloud. I will find a way. You will fly again, Seraphine. I promise. And in that quiet moment, with the ash falling like snow and the first rays of sunlight painting the mountains gold, something shifted. Seraphine lifted her injured wing slightly, testing her strength. Pain flashed across her face, but she did not pull back. She looked at Galen, and for the first time, the Queen and the human shared a silent understanding, a bond formed in courage, hope, and determination. The others might not believe it was possible. The dragons might doubt humans forever. But Galen did not care. He had seen her fight, and he had chosen to fight for her. And in that choice, a spark of hope was born, one that could change the fate of dragons and humans alike. Galen woke before sunrise. The first rays of light made Seraphine's golden scales glint, though they were still dulled with dust and blood. Her wings lay folded awkwardly at her sides. Each breath she took was heavy, and every small movement caused her pain. The villagers had gathered at the edge of the clearing again, murmuring among themselves. Some shook their heads, convinced she would die. Others whispered that Galen was foolish, trying to fix the impossible. But Galen did not listen. He had spent years studying animals, learning about their strength, their limits, and their instincts. He had never faced a creature like Seraphine, yet he refused to be afraid. Carefully, he examined her wings again. The bones were jagged, membranes shredded. If he tried to heal them the usual way, she would never fly. He needed a new plan. He took out the small box of herbs he had brought and began mixing them with water. He added crushed minerals he had collected from the volcanic soil. The smell was strong, almost burning, but he worked quickly. "This will help," he whispered. "It may sting now, but it will make you stronger." Seraphine flinched at the first touch, a hiss escaping her throat. Galen stayed calm. "I know it hurts," he said. "But I'm not leaving you. I will not give up." Hours passed, and the sun rose high in the sky. Galen worked tirelessly, cleaning wounds, applying salves, and carefully aligning the broken wing bones as best he could. He used a mixture of soft cloths and light splints he fashioned from flexible volcanic wood. It was not perfect, but it held the wings in place. Seraphine's golden eyes watched him constantly, her pride warring with her weakness. Sometimes she tried to push him away, but he stayed patient, speaking softly. In the meantime, the young dragonlings began to approach more closely. One bold little dragon crept forward, chirping softly as if to encourage him. Galen smiled. "Thank you," he said. "Your queen is strong. You'll see her fly again soon." The dragonlings chirped and nudged small supplies toward him, vines, leaves, and even water. Galen chuckled quietly. He had never had helpers like this before, and yet, somehow, they understood his purpose. By midday, Galen had done all he could with the tools and herbs he had. He leaned back and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Seraphine did not move much, but he noticed that she no longer hissed at him as sharply. She allowed him to touch the wing membranes gently. That small act of trust gave him hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could heal. But then came the real challenge. The bones in her wings were jagged and weak. Even with the splints, she could not support her own weight. If she tried to lift off, she would fall and break them again. Galen's mind raced. He thought of all the machines humans use to help injured animals. Perhaps he could improvise something similar for dragons. Something strong enough to hold her weight but light enough to allow movement. As he worked, the rival human vet, DracoWar, appeared at the clearing. Draven had always been competitive, always wanting to prove he was better than anyone else. "Galen," he called, voice full of mockery, "you can't save her. It's impossible. She will die, and it will be your fault." Galen did not look up. "I am trying," he said calmly. "This is not about pride. It's about saving her life." Draven sneered. "You're a fool. No human can heal a dragon queen. Just give up." Galen felt anger, but he did not let it control him. Instead, he focused on the task. He gathered vines, strong wood, and scraps of leather from the village. Using the skills he had learned as a healer and a tinkerer, he began building a temporary support for her wings. It was crude but clever, a harness that could hold the wings in the correct position while still allowing some movement. Seraphine watched carefully, her eyes narrowing, as if she understood what he was doing. Hours turned into evening. The sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the clearing. Galen was exhausted, his hands raw from handling the dragon and the materials. But when he finally stepped back and tested the harness, Seraphine lifted one wing slightly. It trembled and wobbled, but it stayed up. Galen's heart raced. She could move it. She could use it. The dragonlings chirped excitedly, circling around her. Seraphine's eyes softened, and she lowered her head, nudging Galen gently with her snout. It was a small gesture, but it felt like thanks. For the first time, he sensed a connection beyond trust, a bond between human and dragon. He had come here alone, against all warnings, but his courage, patience, and belief in the impossible were beginning to work. The villagers watched silently, their whispers fading into awe. Even Draven seemed surprised, though he would not admit it aloud. Galen's plan was working, even if slowly. He knew it would take days, maybe weeks, before Seraphine could fly again. But the first signs of hope had appeared. And sometimes, hope was enough to change everything. That night, as stars began to fill the sky, Galen sat beside Seraphine. He spoke quietly, telling her stories of humans, of the courage he had seen in his life, and of the hope he carried for her. She listened, her massive head resting near him, eyes half closed. The trust was growing. The impossible was beginning to feel possible. And somewhere deep inside both dragon and human, a bond had formed. One that could challenge the expectations of everyone on DracoWars. One that could prove that courage, no matter how small or human, could change even the fate of a dragon queen. The days passed slowly, each one heavier than the last. Galen woke before sunrise, carrying water and more supplies for Seraphine. Her wings were still weak, though the harness he had built helped her hold them up. Every movement caused her pain, and she still could not fly. But she was alive, and that was enough for now. Seraphine's golden eyes followed him everywhere. At first, they were full of suspicion, wary of every hand movement, every tool he touched. But slowly, they softened. She began to recognize him as more than a human. He was someone who wanted to help, someone who understood courage and loyalty. Galen spoke to her gently, telling her what he was doing, explaining every action. "I need you to trust me," he said. "We can do this together." She listened, sometimes flinching, sometimes simply watching, learning that he would not hurt her. The young dragonlings had grown bolder too. They hovered around the clearing, bringing small sticks and soft leaves. They chirped and nudged at Galen, as if helping him understand what Seraphine needed. One day, a small dragon landed next to him and nudged the harness with its nose. Galen smiled. "You're clever," he said. "She will fly because of you too." The dragonlings chirped in excitement, flapping their tiny wings, and even Seraphine let out a low rumble that sounded almost like approval. But healing a dragon queen was not easy. Each day brought new challenges. Sometimes the harness slipped, or a membrane tore again. Galen had to be patient, often working through the night to fix it. He cleaned the wounds, applied salves, and carefully adjusted the splints. He had never faced anything like this before. The human body was fragile, but dragon bodies were strong and strange, with mysteries that no human had fully solved. Galen had to rely on his knowledge, his courage, and his intuition. One afternoon, DracoWar returned. His eyes narrowed as he watched Galen tending to Seraphine. "Still trying, are you?" he sneered. "She will never fly again. You are wasting your time." Galen did not look at him. "I am not giving up," he said quietly. "You may doubt me, but I will do this. She will fly again." Draven laughed harshly. "Humans cannot heal a dragon queen. Accept it, or you will both be dead soon." Galen ignored him, focusing on Seraphine. He had learned that fear and doubt could be more dangerous than any physical injury. If he allowed it to affect him, he would fail. Instead, he spoke softly to the Queen, telling her stories of brave humans, of people who faced impossible odds and refused to quit. He told her about his sister, who had died years ago in a dragon raid. He had been too scared to help then. This time, he would not fail. Over the next few days, something incredible began to happen. Seraphine started moving more. She lifted her wings a little higher each day, testing them carefully. Galen watched, holding his breath every time she tried. Sometimes she would wobble and fall, but he was ready. He steadied her, whispered encouragements, and fixed the harness when needed. Each small success built a stronger bond between them. Seraphine began to trust him, and that trust was growing into something stronger. The villagers began to notice. They came to the edge of the clearing, whispering in awe. "Look at her," one said. "She is moving. Maybe the human can do it." Another shook their head. "I did not believe it possible. Perhaps humans are stronger than we thought." Even Draven seemed surprised, though he did not admit it. He watched quietly from the shadows, seeing Galen's courage, determination, and patience in action. One evening, as the sun began to set, Seraphine did something remarkable. She lifted both wings at the same time, trembling and shaking, but holding them in the air. Galen ran forward to steady her, and she did not pull away. For the first time, she allowed him to help her completely. The young dragonlings circled above, cheering in their way, flapping their wings excitedly. Seraphine let out a low rumble, almost like a purr. It was a sound of approval and trust, something that no human had ever earned from a dragon queen before. Galen's heart swelled with hope. He knew it would still be dangerous to attempt flight, but this was the first real sign that they could succeed. The Queen had begun to accept his help. She understood that he was not just a human, he was a friend, a healer, someone who would risk everything for her. That night, he sat beside her, resting his hand on her massive shoulder. "You are stronger than you know," he said. "And so am I, together, we will make this work." Seraphine lowered her head, allowing him to stay close. The stars reflected in her golden eyes, and for a moment, the world was quiet. The volcanoes were still, the wind still, and it felt as though time itself had paused. In that quiet moment, Galen realized something important. Courage was not just about strength or skill. It was about hope, trust, and the willingness to face the impossible. He had chosen to fight for Seraphine, and in doing so, he had formed a bond that neither humans nor dragons could have expected. The path ahead would be dangerous. The challenges would grow. But for the first time, Galen believed that together, they could overcome anything. And somewhere deep inside Seraphine, a spark had been lit. A spark of trust, a spark of hope, and a spark that could change everything for humans and dragons alike. The next morning, Galen woke before the sun, his body aching from days of work and sleepless nights. Seraphine was awake too, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. She stretched her wings carefully, testing the harness that Galen had built. Each movement caused a sharp hiss of pain, but she did not pull back. Today, he thought, might be the day. Galen checked the harness one last time. The vines and wooden splints held tight, though the weight of Seraphine's wings still caused her pain. He spoke softly, "We will try slowly. You will not fall. I promise." Seraphine tilted her head, her eyes studying him, as if asking if he truly meant it. Galen nodded. "I do." The young dragonlings chirped and flitted around the clearing, sensing the tension and excitement in the air. The Dragon Council had called for a meeting. They were skeptical, even angry, at the idea of a human attempting to heal and help a dragon queen fly again. If Seraphine failed, the council had warned, she would be considered dishonored, and Galen would be blamed. But he did not hesitate. He had faced impossible odds before, and he would face them again. Courage, he knew, was not the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. Galen climbed carefully onto the rocky slope near the clearing. Seraphine lowered herself, allowing him to steady the harness. Slowly, carefully, he adjusted the supports, making sure the wings were in proper alignment. The dragonlings hovered above, their chirps quiet but encouraging. Seraphine shifted slightly, testing her strength. Pain flashed across her face, and a low growl escaped her throat, but she did not pull back. "Good," Galen whispered. "You can do this." He placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling the tension in her massive muscles. "I will help you. Together, we can fly." She flinched but stayed still. Her trust in him had grown over the past days, and now it was a bond neither human nor dragon could break. Galen ran along the slope, helping Seraphine balance. She lifted her wings, trembling but steady. The harness supported her weight, and the young dragonlings circled overhead, cheering in their own way. Villagers watched from a distance, their whispers fading into silence. Some held their breath, unable to believe what they were seeing. Even DracoWar stood in the shadows, watching with wide eyes, unable to interrupt. Step by step, Galen guided her toward a small cliff at the edge of the clearing. Below lay a deep valley, the perfect place to test flight without risking the village. Seraphine's wings lifted higher with each step, the muscles straining, but she did not collapse. Galen's hands were steady on her shoulder, his voice calm. "Almost there. One step at a time." Finally, they reached the edge. Seraphine paused, looking down into the valley. Fear flashed in her eyes. The wind whipped around her, and the smell of sulfur filled the air. Galen spoke softly, "I will not let go. Trust me. You are stronger than you think." She hesitated, then slowly nodded, acknowledging his words. The dragonlings circled above, creating a protective ring, their tiny wings flapping frantically. With a deep breath, Galen guided her forward. She leapt, the harness holding her wings in place. The first few seconds were unstable, her wings trembled violently, and she dipped dangerously. Galen leaned with her, supporting her weight and balancing the motion. Below, the valley stretched wide, and the wind roared past them. The villagers gasped, fearing a fall, but Galen held firm. Then, something incredible happened. Seraphine caught the wind with her wings, steadying herself. Slowly, shakily, she rose higher, flapping carefully but effectively. The harness worked, the wings held, and for the first time, she was in the air under her own power. The dragonlings chirped wildly, circling around her in celebration. Galen leaned close, whispering encouragements, feeling the exhilaration of success. The villagers erupted in cheers, unable to contain their amazement. Even DracoWar stepped forward, stunned. I didn't think it possible," he muttered. Galen smiled but focused on Seraphine, guiding her as she practiced small turns and climbs. Pain still flashed across her wings, but the queen was flying. Against all odds, the impossible had been achieved. Hours passed as Galen worked with her, teaching her to maneuver, to lift higher, to trust her own strength. The bond between human and dragon grew stronger with every movement. Seraphine began to rely on Galen's guidance, and he learned to anticipate her instincts. Together, they created a rhythm, a partnership no one had ever imagined. By sunset, Seraphine soared above the mountains, wings strong and powerful. Galen clung to her shoulder, wind whipping through his hair, and for a moment, all fear and doubt vanished. The impossible had been done. A human had healed a dragon queen, given her back the sky, and earned the trust of an entire species. And as the stars began to appear over DracoWar, Galen realized something extraordinary: courage could not be measured by size or strength. It could not be limited by species or tradition. Courage was the willingness to act, to fight for hope, even when no one believed it possible. Seraphine roared into the night, a sound of victory and trust, and for the first time, both humans and dragons understood that together, anything could be achieved. The next morning, the sky over DracoWar was clear, the volcanic ash from the previous storms drifting far below. Seraphine soared above the mountains, her wings strong and steady, catching the wind with perfect grace. The villagers, young dragonlings, and even skeptical dragons watched in awe. Galen stood on a cliff, chest heaving, eyes shining with pride. The impossible had been done. A human had healed a dragon queen. The Dragon Council approached cautiously. They had watched everything in silence, their expressions unreadable. For centuries, they had believed that dragons were beyond human understanding. No human had ever earned the trust of a dragon queen, much less helped her fly again after such injuries. As Seraphine landed gracefully before them, she lowered her massive head in a gesture of respect and acknowledgement toward Galen. The council gasped. You have done what no human has ever done," said Elder Dragon, his deep voice shaking with awe. "You have healed our queen and helped her fly. You have proven that courage, determination, and wisdom are not limited to dragons. You are worthy." Galen bowed respectfully, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I did not do it for honor," he said. "I did it because she needed help, and I could not turn away." The young dragonlings cheered and circled around Seraphine, flapping their wings excitedly. Seraphine rumbled low in her throat, a sound of joy and approval. She nudged Galen gently with her snout, a gesture that said more than words ever could. He smiled, brushing the edge of his sleeve against her scaled skin. "We did it together," he whispered. Even DracoWar stepped forward. His usual arrogance was replaced with quiet respect. "I underestimated you, Galen," he said. "You have shown me what courage truly is. I see now that humans can achieve what we thought impossible." Galen nodded, not out of pride, but from understanding. Courage, he knew, was more than skill or knowledge, it was heart, persistence, and the refusal to give up even when everyone else doubted you. As the sun rose higher, Seraphine spread her wings and rose into the sky. Galen climbed onto her back carefully, holding on as she lifted higher and higher. Below, the villagers and dragons alike watched in amazement. This moment was not just about her flight, it was about hope, unity, and the incredible potential of humans. Seraphine's flight was a symbol, a proof that determination could defy expectations, that courage could bridge worlds. From that day forward, humans were no longer strangers in the dragon lands of DracoWars. They became allies, partners in exploration, healing, and defense. Galen continued his work, teaching other humans about dragons and learning from dragons in return. The young dragonlings, inspired by what they had witnessed, grew up believing that humans were worthy friends, capable of bravery and honor. Galen often thought back to the first day he had met Seraphine, lying broken and helpless. He remembered the fear in her eyes, the doubt of the council, and the whispers of villagers. He had faced impossible odds, and yet he had chosen to fight anyway. That choice had changed everything. The queen had flown again, and humans had earned respect they had never imagined. But the greatest reward was the bond he had formed with Seraphine. She was not just a dragon queen, but a friend, a partner, and a reminder that courage could create trust even across species. Each flight they took together was a celebration of that bond, a dance of wings and wind that no human or dragon could have imagined before. One evening, as the sky turned pink and orange with sunset, Galen sat on a cliff with Seraphine by his side. The young dragonlings circled above, playful and full of life. "We've done something amazing," he said softly. Seraphine nudged him gently in response, her eyes warm and intelligent. It was a quiet, simple moment, but it carried more meaning than any words could express. The villagers, now fully accepting humans among dragons, had begun rebuilding their homes near the cliffs, creating a community where humans and dragons could live and learn from each other. The story of Galen's courage spread across DracoWars and beyond, inspiring humans on other worlds to act bravely, to help where others doubted, and to believe in the impossible. In the distance, the volcanoes rumbled softly, a reminder that the world could be harsh and unpredictable. But for the first time, humans and dragons faced it together. Galen had shown that courage was stronger than fear, that hope could heal even the deepest wounds, and that one human could change the destiny of an entire species. Seraphine roared into the night sky, a sound that carried through mountains and valleys. It was a roar of victory, trust, and unity. And as Galen looked up, feeling the wind on his face, he knew this was just the beginning. Humans had earned their place in the skies of DracoWars. Humans had proven they could achieve the impossible. And humans had shown that courage, when guided by heart and determination, could heal even a dragon queen. And so, the legend of Galen Armitage and Seraphine, the healed dragon queen, was born. A story of courage, hope, and trust that would inspire generations, humans and dragons alike, to reach higher, fly further, and never give up, no matter how impossible the challenge seemed.